Hey, we're back with another episode of A Christian Wife's Diaries. And this video has been driving me insane. Sometimes I feel like I'm saying too much. Sometimes I feel like I'm saying too little. Sometimes I don't want to say what I have to say, but we're going to get it done. This is just what God has called me to do. He has given me a platform to share my testimony. So today we're going to start off with a question. Have you ever had someone that you have done so much for, whether you have supported them financially, so emotionally, whatever, you've done so much for this person, and when things don't go their way, they turn on you, they talk badly about you, they blame you, and you're just like, yo, after all I've done for you, this is how you do me? We've all been there. And that is exactly how God showed me that is how I was making him feel with my anger for the most part. So, if you don't know, a little backstory, I am one of 6 children who comes from a mother who was one of, I believe is 11. I could have that number wrong. I know it's a big number. And a father who was one of 8 and lots of cousins and blah, 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 blah. Either way, I've had a very large family, but despite coming from a very large family, I grew up feeling very much alone because I lived in a home of a single mother who had an alcohol problem, who was abusive verbally, emotionally, physically, mentally, all the leads. And then on top of that, I was molested as a child by a trusted relative. So with all of that, all that I had to go through, that lasted for a very long time. The abuse lasted for a very long time. And I just grew up feeling very alone, even though I had 5 other siblings in the home with me. My older siblings, they were off dealing with their traumas in their own way. And in my opinion, they weren't really there for the younger siblings like we would have wanted them to be. And then I had another sibling who was very close to me. We're about 13 months apart or something like that. And unfortunately, we weren't able to be there for each other because my mother decided she was going to protect that child while abusing the other child. And then we had the last sibling who came into the picture, and she was just thrown into the mix of things. And we spent a lot of time caring for her and trying our best to protect her, but still going through our own thing. So all of that lasted for a while before we all separated, which is a story for another time. But all of that, and then I started getting into church, and I started hearing people tell me, but you weren't alone because God was with you through it all. And I started reading his word that says God will never leave you nor forsake you, and he loves you, and he's near the brokenhearted, and he'll protect you. And all of that made me angry more than it comforted me, because questions started to develop in my mind. Well, if God was there, why didn't he stop her? Why didn't he put me in a different family? Why didn't he protect me? Why did this go on for so long? And then on top of that, there was some pride in it because I felt as though it made me a stronger person, which it does, but I was allowing it to draw me away from God more than draw me closer to God, because that pride was like, no, you're not going to tell me that I was not alone, because I was most definitely alone. And it developed some pride in me that overruled the love that God has for me. So then, as I started to surrender myself to God and really allow his words to touch my heart, and then he started literally showing me visions of him being in the kitchen with me. So the kitchen was where my mom decided to put me when I was on punishment. I would sit in the kitchen for hours on end, and I would be listening to all my other siblings play and have fun while I sat in that kitchen alone. So he would literally show me visions of him being in the kitchen with me, sitting next to me, holding me and caressing me and comforting me. He showed me visions of him literally standing between me, him, and then my mother, who was there ready to attack me. and he would be protecting me and pleading for her to stop. Like, he literally showed me visions of this. And then it started to dawn on me how, not really dawn on me, but then he allowed me to understand. He helped me to understand that different things that people were doing was his way of protecting me. When my dad would come home and protect me, they would get into fights because he would be protecting me. He would be on her because of how she treated me. That was God. When my aunts or my brothers or my sisters or the neighbor or different people would come and try to talk to her about how she was living her life and try to convince her to do better and, you know, things like that. That was God. That was God trying to fix that situation in order for it to protect me, in order for him to protect me. And then I clearly remember one of the most vivid times in my childhood was once when my mom was drunk and she winded up stabbing one of my brothers. And on that day, we thought the Bill family legacy was done. We were like, oh, they're going to put us into the system. There's no way that somebody is going to take 6 children. We're going to be separated. She's going to jail. We thought that it was over. And when I started getting into church and really surrendering to his word and surrendering to his love, he showed me how he was even in that situation. That day, when we thought that it was over, God allowed it to not be, which I know sounds crazy, but let me finish. So on that day, the cops actually was downstairs. My brother who was stabbed went outside. He says he went to go call his dad, but somehow the police were there. They came upstairs and they took my mother to the emergency room to sober up. My grandmother wound up keeping us until my mom was able to come out of the hospital. And God protected that situation and allowed us to stay together. No, the abuse did not stop on that day. But if it wasn't for God stepping in that situation, I wouldn't be here today, because it was actually my younger sister who got into church and who helped me to come to God. So had we been separated on that day, had we been separated on that day, things would have turned out a lot differently. My mother is able to say that it's going on 2 years that she has been sober. That may have not been the case had she lost all 6 of her children. We don't know where that would have taken her. So God has just been revealing to me all the ways that it didn't look like he was there, but he was actually there the entire time. So I'm here to help you understand that even though it may not look that way, it may not feel that way, God is there protecting you, making a plan for you, making sure that his plan that he had for you when he formed you in your mother's womb is going to work out for your good. So even though it doesn't feel like it, even though it doesn't look like it, he is there with you. So the verse of today is one that has brought me so much anger, a verse that took me a very long time to accept. But that verse is Deuteronomy 31:8 in the New King James Version. And it reads, "And the Lord, he is the one who goes before you. He will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not fear nor be dismayed." And that took me a very long time to understand and accept. But I hope that this video helps you to get a little bit closer to accepting the fact that, again, even though it doesn't feel like it, that God will never leave you nor forsake you. He is right there with you as you're going through your trials and tribulations, and he is turning your hurt and pain into a testimony. So just hold on to those promises. But I thank you guys so much for watching again. I hope that this video has blessed you and helped you to draw closer to God. And if no one has told you today, let me be the first to tell you that you are loved, you are cared for, you are needed. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you on the next episode of A Christian Wife's Diary. Bye.